Hey, me Matt here, and just finished watching night one of Fighter Fest, and yeah, it was a really good show. And I think that going away now from Daly's place and heading into, well, in Texas, and night one was really cool. I mean, John Moxley versus Carl Anderson was awesome. You know, they really beat the shit out of each other like I predicted. And of course, taking it to the outside. In the start of the match, you have Eddie Kingston with a lead pipe beating down Luke Gallows. Or Doc Gallows, rather. And, you know, that was a fair advantage. Of course, this match wasn't without John Moxley winning the match. And yeah, this was pretty cool. And I think that, you know, we'll see what happens. Obviously, in the future, you had Lance Archer with Jake Roberts making another challenge to John Moxley on night 2 to have another Texas death match. Obviously, they had one last year at Wrestle Kingdom, and he challenged for a Texas death match in Texas, obviously, so it'll be for the IWGP US Championship, and I can't wait to see where that goes. And then, of course, later on in the night, John Moxley accepted it, and so yeah, it'll be a fun match to see what happens. And I'm glad that Carl Anderson didn't go over. I mean, like I said before in the prediction, I'm sure he will get a chance and win the United States title, but I'm not quite sure when. But obviously last night wasn't in the cards. Then we had Ricky Starks with Hook and Powerhouse Hobbs, who defeated Brian Cage. Well, that was interesting, because you thought Brian Cage was going to win. You thought this was going to be his night. You know, he really beat the shit out of Ricky Starks, but Ricky Starks definitely held his own. And you were going to have him take the FTW title and hit Brian Cage for the win. But Will Hobbs said, no, you can't do that. You gotta fight fair. Okay, you know, that was the way it is. Well, as it turns out, Will Hobbs plummeted Brian himself. He got the win. And now he's the new FTW champion. So I still think that Brian Cage is a face now, and we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, that's kind of a shock to see that. But obviously, you knew something like that might happen. So we'll see what happens with that in the future as well. And I think that they will have a rematch at some point, but who knows. And I mean, I think that Brian Cage should definitely go after the AEW title at some point. But we'll see. This match was awesome. Got Christian Cage, yes, Christian Cage, because we don't have enough cages, taking on Matt Hardy. And these two, I mean, it was interesting to see Christian pull off a spear. Obviously a tribute to Adam Copeland Edge. It would be interesting on SmackDown tonight if Edge did a kill switch on one of the Usos. I'm not quite sure. Don't think that'll happen, but this was awesome. And of course you have him counter the Twist of Fate. And yeah, this was cool, seeing how these two really worked off each other. And I was wrong. I expected Matt Hardy to win, you know, but Christian won with the kill switch. And you know, it's kind of fascinating to me that since he's been on AEW, that he definitely is undefeated. So that's pretty cool. And I can't wait to see what else that they do with him. You have Sammy Guevara versus Wheeler Yuta, and didn't see this on the card, and we didn't talk about it either, obviously, so this was good. These two are great high flyers, and they took each other to the limit. Wheeler Yuta had Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy in his corner. The name sounds familiar, but I don't know if it's Ring of Honor or not, but I know I heard that name somewhere. Anyway, Sammy Guevara went over in this one, and yeah, this was very cool watching this match. Sammy giving him a show of respect as well, so I mean, I want to see more from Wheeler Yuta. I want to see what more he can do in AEW. I know that he's had a few matches on Dark, and unfortunately, I don't watch Dark, and I should. You have the women's match. You have Yuka Sakazaki, who defeated Penelope Ford. This was a really good match too. And then Penelope Ford really tried to take it to Yuki in this match, and Yuka won. And I thought that for her return, that was really cool to see that happen. Sometimes you don't know. I think that it'll be interesting to see when she will go for the women's championship. But no, she's not the one that we thought of, the singing. But she's definitely got that anime influence. You had an interview with Britt Baker, of course, being interviewed by Tony Schiavone, talking about Nyla Rose and her upcoming women's championship match. So I look forward to that on night 2 next week. You had Darby Allin and Ethan Page in a coffin match, and holy shit. So, first of all, you have Darby starting the match. He had a steel plate shield on his back. He did the coffin drop, but I think Ethan blocked it, so that didn't really do anything. You have Ethan had the hook from the turnbuckle that he tore off, so the bottom rope was just broken off. And of course, he had the hook, and he tried to hook it onto Darby's chain, his necklace, and can't remember exactly what he did, but then of course Darby hooked him in the mouth with that and dragged him around the ring. And then of course they went all the way to the audience, up the stairs. You have Darby going up that sign, landing on Ethan, who caught him and hit his spine in both the posts. And then of course there was a point where Ethan Page threw Darby off the fucking stairs onto the ground, and that was quite the feat to get back into the ring. There was a point in the match where Scorpio Sky was waiting in the coffin, so when Darby opened the coffin, surprise, and then of course that happened. This was cool to see how these two guys really pushed each other, but of course Darby ended up getting the win, and that was pretty quick how that happened, having the skateboard and jumping off of Ethan's back and then putting Ethan into the coffin. Now there was a point in the match too where the stairs were getting involved, and the stairs were put into the ring, and Ethan did a super Ethan's edge to the stairs. So yeah, I mean, obviously this was a good match. I believe that for the first time they have a coffin match, this was pretty cool. I think we should see more of that. Now they did have Rampage, which is going to be in a couple weeks or so, and that's a new AEW show, so we'll look forward to that and seeing how that's going to turn out. But this was a very good show. I really enjoyed it, and they have some matches for night 2, but stay tuned for Wheels of Fury. it's most likely going to be a triple header, so look forward to that, and talk to you later. Bye. Well, there it is. Fighter Fest Night 2 is in the books, and I guess getting ready for Fight for the Fallen, which apparently is going to be next week, so stay tuned for that. Wheels of Fury episode, I'm sure. This was fucking great, too. I mean, you got Shawn Spears versus Jericho, and Chris Jericho, you know, one of the biggest names in the business. This was a good match. You know, you have Shawn using the chair, obviously, putting the chair on the turnbuckle and trying to throw Jericho through it. Eventually, he gets tossed through it. You have Shawn Spears put the chair on the top. I can't remember what move it was, but of course it was blocked. You have Jericho win with the Judas effect. And yeah, I mean, this was a good match too. You know, I think that obviously, kind of thought that Jericho was gonna lose, but you know, that wasn't the case. There was a point in the match where Sammy Guevara came out after Tully was trying to get in on Jericho. Of course, he didn't even touch Tully. He actually got him all the way to the back before the match was ended. And yeah, this was a cool match as well. And I mean, yeah, I can't wait to see what they do next. After the match, you had MJF come out, and he's all talking about congratulations to Chris Jericho for the win. But next week, for Fight for the Fallen, you have a No Rules match with none other than Nick fucking Gage. Now, I haven't seen really many matches, maybe one match from Nick Gage in a long time, but I know that it would be right up my alley. I really do. And judging by the match with Sami Callihan and Kenny Omega, and then of course the match I'm going to talk about in a second or two, Nick Gage is one badass motherfucker. So we're going to see what happens there. You had a press conference with Tony Schiavone talking about Fight for the Fallen, a tag team match with Santana and Ortiz versus FTR. And of course you have Santana talking about his mom and everything, and then they brawl. So it's basically talking about life on the streets. So we're going to find out what happens next week. I can't wait. It's going to be an awesome match. There was also excitement with Andrade talking about a big surprise, and I thought it was going to be Roosh. However, turns out that it's none other than the return to the ring of Chavo Guerrero Jr. So, they talk for a bit, and you have the Death Triangle come out. And of course, Gollum, he's talking. And then of course you have the Lucha Brothers, and they get on the action. I thought there was going to be a heel turn. Shuffle says at one point that they should join his team because they're Latino. But of course that doesn't work. The referees fight them off. And yeah, that was a pretty good segment, if you ask me. You had Frankie Kazarian taking on Doc Gallows. This was a good match. And, you know, like talking about Slammiversary, I'm very impressed with Doc Gallows and the fact that those roundhouse kicks are deadly. And yeah, I mean, Frankie just tried to do his best and take down Doc Gallows, but Gallows ended up winning. And yeah, so that was a pretty good match too. I mean, they pulled out all the stops as well. But the Good Brothers beat down Kazarian, and then of course you had Stonehenge come out with Lenny Omega, and they beat down Frankie Kazarian. But then of course you had Hangman Page come out, and then he was followed by the Dark Order afterwards, after he decided to beat out both the Good Brothers and Omega. And so, yeah, Dark Order stands tall with Adam Page, and next week, the Fight for the Fallen, you have Dark Order and Page versus the Elite and the Good Brothers. So that should be interesting to see what happens, you know. I think that, like I said before, in the prediction video that we did, that it's time for Adam Page to get the championship and then maybe have two of the Dark Orders as tag team champions. Who knows what's going to happen? So, Brian Cage had a segment, and yeah, that's really nothing special, to be honest with you. You have this match, we didn't talk about it, but you have Wheeler Yuta versus Darby Allin, and you know, both faces, both really good high flyers and whatever. Yuta's really good, and I mean, last week he really put on a great show, but this was awesome. And you know, Darby Allin's lips were taped up from last week, his match with Ethan Page. But there's a point where you have Orange Cassidy, I guess, doing a little shtick with Sting. You know, and of course Sting was mocking him. But yeah, it is what it is, really, I guess. But anyways, Darby hit a stunner and his coffin drop, which I thought was kind of okay. It is what it is. I mean, your ribs are broken or damaged or whatever, but Darby Allin picks up the win. So you have Orange Cassidy and Yuta leaving, and then of course Braxton the Blade Sutter comes out and hits Orange Cassidy with a brass knucks. So that's basically, you know, they're gonna have a match later on, and Braxton gets a heads up. So you have Nyla Rose versus Britt Baker for the championship. This was really good too. A very close call. You thought Nyla was going to give back the championship, but you know, you have Britt Baker win, and this was cool. You know, seeing Rebel get involved as well, even though she had the crutch. But yeah, this was really a good match, and yeah, I think Nyla Rose definitely proved herself as well, hitting a choke slam, hitting a Samoan drop, hitting just a lot of weird shit, but of course it wasn't enough, and Britt Baker won. Orange Cassidy versus the Blade, and this was awesome too. And you know, this backlash from earlier the night, and you thought that Orange Cassidy was basically like gonna lose. You have Orange Cassidy do a dive through the ropes, but Blade got Statlander in front of him, and basically Orange Cassidy ran into Statlander. And you know, the same thing happened a little bit later, well, actually a few minutes after. You know, we have Ali getting into a fight with Orange Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy goes, I'm threw Allie into Braxton, and you had the brass knucks, you know, and of course, Orange Cassidy is all beaten up from that, and there's a point where they're in the ring, and Allie throws the brass knucks to Braxton, and that doesn't work out, and yeah, there's that, and eventually Orange Cassidy throws an orange punch and wins the match, but of course afterwards takes the brass knucks that were on the mat and delivers another punch to the blade for good measure. So this was a good match, and who knows what's going to happen with that feud. I mean, it could continue, but I'm not quite sure. Like I said, I think that Orange Cassidy, and I don't have to say he wasn't championship material, however, he's very entertaining in the ring. So he had a backstage interview with Jericho with his back turned, talking about his up-and-coming match next week at Fight for the Fallen. And he's like, you know, if I have to fit Nick Cage, then I can't just beat Chris Jericho. And of course you see him with the spikes and his leather jacket. And he's like, I can't just beat Chris Jericho. And he turns around, and it's the Painmaker, Chris Jericho. He's got the Alice Cooper type makeup, and then he puts on his fedora hat. So this is going to be a really cool match to watch. I mean, I can't wait either. It's going to be, yeah. And you know, the thing is too is that I've seen matches with Jericho in Japan, and that persona is awesome. You know, with Okada and Naito and all of that. So I can't wait to see what happens there. The Texas Death Match, oh my god. You know, like, I think there was a match that is very impressive to me. And you have this match, John comes out first. Lance Archer, I think, you know, with the Tommy Dreamer impression, with the two kendo sticks he has, throwing him in the ring. The one doesn't really hit the ring, it bounces off the ropes. But this match was awesome, and Jake Roberts was in Lance's corner. They used out a lot of their weapons too. You have kendo sticks, you have the steps, you have a trash can. There's a trash can lid that was used. It busted up on Archer. And yeah, there was the Murder Hawk, who was in the stands fighting off Moxley. And he actually threw a fan at Moxley, which I thought was interesting. It could have been a fan, I'm not even sure if it was staged or whatever, but it was a pretty cool experience. And then they get back into the ring. Moxley does a clothesline, and well, there's just a lot of cool matches. There's a paradigm shift on the outside. You have the blackout, which was used by Moxley, delivering it to Lance Archer onto the steps. You have, finally, and I was waiting for this at Omega and Callahan on Sunday, but yeah, Moxley get out of the ring, and he has two boards, and they have barbed wire, and so he puts them on the table, and of course it backfires, and Moxley ends up going onto those boards and gets stuck by the barbed wire, and then the referee counts to 10, and they have the Murder Hawk Monster, Lance Archer, as your new IWGP United States Champion. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, during the night, you showed the ringside area. And you had Haku's son, Tama Hikaru, who will be wrestling Lance Archer next week for Fight for the Fallen for the IWGP United States Championship. Of course, coming over from Japan. So it's going to be interesting to see these two behemoths go at it. I can't wait. And then forgot the best part. You had the fork that Moxley used on Lance after being busted open. And Lance used it too at some point, but this was a good show. And I think, I can't really do it justice, but after just watching it, man, it was awesome. It really was, and I can't wait to see what happens next week for Fight for the Fallen. But anyways, talk to you later.
Bye. So you know that them cutting WCW was a long time coming. But I think that there's this myth out there that Jamie Keller that's why he took pleasure in cutting WCW. I don't think that's the case at all. Because if you look at some of his earlier interviews, like